This is Coffee Talk with Rick and Trent.
Hey guys.
Hi guys, my name's Rick Hutton, and the video today is going to be about what it's like going from driving a modified 18 Crosstrek to driving a completely stock Crosstrek again. This Crosstrek here is a 2019 Limited, and it is owned by my buddy Trent Nichols from Tucson Subaru, aka Trent the Car Guy. Check out his channel if you haven't been over there yet. He's got a lot of cool videos going on, and he knows everything you need to know about Subaru if you have any questions. The first time I got my car, my goal with it was to keep the drivability as a daily driver on road, but I wanted to make it safer and a little bit better off-road without stepping over the line to where I don't like driving it every day. If you're not familiar with my car or the mods that I have, you can check out my playlist. I have a bunch of videos in there, but essentially we're talking about wheels and tires, LP Adventure front bar and skid plate, and you probably wonder why would that change the drivability? It's basically weight. It's about 48 more pounds on the front of the car and kind of out in front of the suspension, so that makes a big difference. Actually, because of the extra weight, I put 1-inch Rallytech springs on the front and back to kind of raise the car back up a little bit and to firm it up and to keep it from sagging when I load a lot of stuff in it. So those are the three major mods that are affecting the drivability. So today's going to be cool because Trent's going to drive my car and he's going to tell us what he thinks about driving a modified Crosstrek versus driving the stock cars that he drives at work all the time and now driving his new Crosstrek around. So it should be an interesting video. Hope you guys enjoy it. If you do, hit like, subscribe, and come back for more videos. And let's get started. All right, we are getting ready to take off. This is my first time driving a stock Crosstrek in a very long time. And it's interesting because it feels exactly the same, but it's a different car, so it's kind of weird. It's kind of tripping me out a little bit. So the first thing I notice just sitting in here is the eyesight stuff. It's like this big module up here that I'm not used to seeing. So normally I have light between my mirror and the top of the car, and with this you do not. It's like module and then mirror. So that's kind of interesting. I can't explain how the steering feels different, but it definitely feels different. And I want to say that the steering in here feels a little bit looser than the way it feels in my car now. The noise level is definitely quieter in here, and if you remember from one of the videos I did a long time back, before the KO2 tires and after, with just the iPhone decimal reader app, I think it was 4 decibels or maybe it was 5 louder at the same speed on the same road. So that's a pretty significant difference. Doesn't feel quite as different as I thought it was going to feel, but I think when I get back in my car I'll be like, oh yeah, now I get it. So we'll see. We're going to pull over here a little bit. Hey guys, Trent and I are back now. We're sitting at his campsite and we just spent time switching back and forth between his car and my car. We each drove the different vehicles on road as well as off road. And what we're going to talk about now is basically I want to get Trent's impressions of what he thought of my car on the road and then off-road, big differences, no differences, etc. And I'm going to ask him a couple of questions about some of the stuff I get is, does the car feel slower because of the wheels and tires? And does it feel stiffer because of the Rallytech springs? So let's start with that, Trent. So what do you think about your first impressions when you first got in the car and drove it on the road? What did you think about the noise, about the comfort, and all that other stuff?
Well, definitely, I've been working for Subaru for almost 10 years now, and so most everything I drive is a stock car. Haven't done anything real extreme to any of my cars either. So I went into this thinking that there was going to be a lot more, a pretty significant difference between the two. And right away on the driving on the road part, I really didn't feel as large of a difference as I thought. Now, the tire was louder. I heard the hum that you would hear having this type of tires, but I expected that completely. I did feel the road a little bit more. Okay. I definitely did find that I thought it was going to be even louder. And I just turned the radio up to about the volume level 15 on the car, and really didn't even hear the hum anymore. But I think that the surprising thing to me was that when I really focused on it, I really did feel that the steering was a lot more responsive with the aftermarket wheels and tires than it was when I drove, the stock ones that I drive.
Cool. And that's interesting that you say that, because the very first thing when I pulled out of the parking area in your car was, I think I mentioned it to you, that it felt like it wasn't as responsive. It was almost like there was a little bit of space between turning the wheel and the tire, which is kind of what I remember from when my Crosstrek was brand new. All right, so let's go. I'll give you guys a little bit more about what I think about the car later, but I wanted to continue on with Trent as far as what he thinks about now off-road. What did you notice off-road, if anything, significantly different?
That was definitely the part I was looking forward to the most, because I kind of had the right expectations for the road drive. So,
sure.
But we do a lot of things on off-road, and I think that it's definitely, I was impressed because I could tell right away like how much better the car was just handling, just kind of even just going back and forth a little bit. And when I hit the bumps and things, I don't think I felt as much rattle inside the car as I do in the stock car.
Interesting.
Obviously, you've got some adjustments you've made in the suspension and with the springs and all that, but I definitely made my decision that I want to do it to my car now because I was kind of scared of it being such a huge difference that maybe my wife wouldn't be happy with it.
Sure.
Like you said, it's kind of nice to be able to do your normal everyday stuff and still enjoy your car. If you're going to take a car out and off-road all the time, then obviously you can go a little bit deeper with some of that stuff. So it's nice having the balance when my wife's going to be involved in driving this car a lot too.
Absolutely.
Doesn't necessarily like all the same things I do.
Sure. That's surprising.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Well, and the interesting thing too is I think I've noticed the more you drive the car with the wheels and tires on it, the more it kind of fades into the background. Now, as far as the Rallytech springs, did you think the car felt stiffer than stock, or does it feel
quite surprisingly? I don't think it felt stiffer. That made me it made it actually become a thing that I was thinking about real heavily. So, but I think that the difference was minimal.
Okay, as far as the springs go. And then, did you notice anything acceleration wise? I mean,
I kind of feel like it was exactly the same.
Pretty much the same.
I don't think I felt any difference whatsoever in the acceleration.
Okay, so overall impressions, as far as there anything else that you noticed from stock to not stock that you would want to mention to people that are maybe interested in doing some mods?
I one thing I'll just mention, which is it probably doesn't matter to some people, but I have the Harman Kardon sound system, so this is still a stock versus stock thing. But I for the first time have really heard the difference from the exact same car to the exact same car.
Oh, that's cool.
Because I've had the Harman Kardon for a while in my cars, and
sure.
To drive one without it, I instantly my brain kind of ticked and
interesting.
And I heard the difference. I'm like, whoa. Oh, I'm driving Rick's car,
cool.
And I'm not a huge sound guy,
right.
So that's why it was kind of interesting that kind of jumped out at me. But
that's cool.
But really, I think that the differences were enough that it makes sense to do it if you're going to be doing things off road, but not too much to where my wife could come in and be like, whoa, this is horrible to drive, and now I'm going to take your other car and you're going to drive this all the time.
Right. All right, guys, I'm back in my car. I'm heading back through Gates Pass, and I'll show you some video of that from the drone, but it's such a pretty area. But I'm done filming with Trent over there, and I need to start heading back to my side of town, so I'm going to film my impressions of what I thought of the vehicles while I'm driving home. So I'm going to start out with on-road impressions, the Stock Crosstrek to mine. And let me just say that I was really expecting a pretty massive difference between the two cars, just given all the things that I've done. And I'm a little bit surprised that while there are differences, they're not quite as big as I thought they would be. Clearly, the first and foremost thing that you're going to notice getting in my car from a stock car is the loud road noise from the tires. And this is something I've addressed throughout all my videos. You're looking at about 5 decibels louder in this car compared to a stock Crosstrek. Beyond that, the other thing, as I mentioned when we were talking with Trent, is I noticed that his steering did not feel quite as precise as mine does, which in some ways I'm a little surprised by that, but in others I'm not, because I really think it's from that weight of the skid plate and the bar up front. 48 pounds up over the front of the car really takes out some of that, kind of squats the suspension a little bit, I think, and takes out some of that understeer that comes stock in this car. It's not huge and it's not a dramatic change, but it's definitely something that I noticed, and I think Trent mentioned it as well, that he noticed the steering was a little bit different, especially off-road, and I think that's probably the tires more than anything. On other on-road things that I notice, and again, it's noise related, is the skid plate being that big flat aluminum panel really resonates some noises, and so you'll get a little bit more, especially in the expansion joints and in the cruddy roads around here, certain parts of town, you'll get more reverberation from that thing. Acceleration, there really doesn't feel like there's any difference at all. Besides that, these springs to me do not feel any stiffer than stock. In fact, I think the ride is actually much better than it was prior to putting the springs on, and I think that's because that weight was overloading the front suspension. So it's really made a big improvement drivability wise, putting those springs on here with that extra weight in front. All right, so let's talk off-road real quick. We didn't do anything significant today. We didn't do anything to test either car. We just rode on that dirt road. But I will say that going back and forth between the cars, I feel like this car feels just more substantial on the road. And you can feel the tires make a huge difference, and maybe even the wheels, but there's definitely something there that you can tell when you're off-road, and maybe it's the springs as well, but it's noticeable. I think Trent mentioned that he felt like the steering was much better off-road, and I would tend to agree with him there. But again, in the little bit that we did today, there wasn't anything massively different. These tires are going to be, 100 times better off-road than the stock tires, and just having that better sidewall, that bigger sidewall, is going to make a significant difference as well, as far as comfort, as far as preventing pinch flats and hitting rocks and causing flats and things like that. So the wheels and tires are really a great benefit if you're going to be doing anything off-road. So to wrap up, this was a fun video for me. I was really expecting quite a bit bigger change or bigger difference between stock and not stock. So I really appreciate Trent giving me the time to drive his car and to mess around and feel the differences out and to share it with you guys. Like I mentioned a couple times today, check out Trent's page. If you have any Subaru questions, feel free to hit him up. He'll answer you the best he can. If you're in the market for buying a car, he can help you out there too. So thanks you guys for watching, and we will catch you on the next video.